sponsored by the Bernie Delegates Network, which has been launched by the online action group rootsaction.org, which I co-founded and coordinate. The Bernie Delegates Network is in partnership with Progressive Democrats of America. We are not, as a network, a directive network. We are a reflective network. We reflect the viewpoints and policy and action options of the Bernie delegates at this convention. And as this sheet notes, we now have about 2/3 of the Bernie Sanders delegates at this convention as part of the network, and about 90% of that figure of 1250 actively opted in by going to our website, reading what we're about, and signing up. One of the unique features, I think, of the network is that we are surveying in quick time with straw polls with unique links so that each delegate has the option to vote in a survey, but only once, on various opinions and prospective actions on the convention floor. We did that in terms of ascertaining what the top priorities are for the delegates, and it was clear that fighting the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, ranked the highest among Bernie Sanders delegates. Also very high was the fight for Medicare for all, also known as single payer. And the third was half of the delegates ranked very high the recognition of the climate emergency and taking commensurate government action, which is woefully inadequate. We also have surveyed the delegates about, at that point, their view of potential picks for the vice presidential slot. We're talking 11, 12 days ago now. In terms of Tim Kaine, close to 300 delegates responded in an overnight poll and found that in ranking the acceptability, unacceptability, people were asked to choose acceptable, unacceptable, not sure. Tim Kaine came in with 88.1% unacceptable. He came in with 3% acceptable. So what does that tell you? We released these numbers 10 days ago, that by a margin of 88 to 3%, the Bernie delegates have had a view that Tim Kaine is unacceptable. And we know that Hillary Clinton has made her choice. And so we're now in the process of surveying, and the initial numbers are just coming in now, the viewpoints of hundreds of Bernie Sanders delegates who are responding to the poll, this straw poll, as to what the commensurate action will be in terms of this selection by Hillary Clinton. How strongly people feel about there's a need to respond, in what way do we need to respond. Again, I want to note that Bernie Delegates Network is not directive. It is wanting to reflect the views of the delegates and quickly, in real time, let them know. And with due respect to employees of corporate media, we don't want to rely on corporate media to tell us what we think or what each other thinks. And in, unfortunately, an otherwise unavailable way, our surveying process is enabling not only us to find out, but to let each other know outside of our own particular cultural or geographic silos or whatever, what the entire delegation is feeling and looking to do in some kind of unique way. Of course, I'm sure that it will come up today, the trajectory of the political operative career of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And I think it's fair to say that when her complicity with the Clinton campaign, where she was supposed to be as chair of the DNC, even-handed, became incontrovertible. Now, of course, Bernie talked about it 6 months ago on national TV, but incontrovertible with the smoking gun of the emails. I don't think we could say that her resignation represents her being tossed overboard by Hillary Clinton. She was ferried quickly by a lifeboat to an executive suite of the Hillary campaign, and now we've just been told within hours of her announced resignation, now she has a position at the Hillary Clinton campaign, a very high level one, at least symbolically. And so it does raise the question as well, she's resigning as of Friday? I mean, why wait till Friday? So we're seeing these symbols that the power in the party, the nominee, we know she's going to be the nominee, she has the power to move towards unity. She's holding those cards. But rather than reach out towards the constituencies, the delegates, and most importantly the constituencies, the 45% or so of voters in Democratic primaries and caucuses who went for Bernie, the selection of a person in the ticket, and you have literature here we passed out documenting just a few of the positions of Tim Kaine, positions that are major, that are antithetical to what the Bernie campaign has been all about. Putting him on the ticket, that's not reaching out. And as I've said, if that's reaching out, it's with political thumbs that are put in the eyes of Bernie Sanders supporters. We have now challenged to look at the day ahead and the weeks ahead, and I want to introduce to you a couple of speakers. First, Karen Bernal. Karen, along with being an elected, she came in first in the Sacramento area, elected as a Bernie Sanders delegate. And by the way, we had our caucuses in California on May 1st, which is quite symbolic. May Day, International Workers' Day, and also on the high seas, a signal for distress, which in terms of economic injustice, our country continues to suffer from. Karen went on to be part of a process of the democratization of the Bernie Sanders delegation in the state of California, which of course is the largest delegation at the convention. And we were told that it's traditional for, from the top, the head of the delegation, the chair, to be handpicked. And we noted as delegates that it's traditional not to have authentic democracy also. And we were not going to accept that. So the Bernie Sanders delegation in the state of California went through a rigorous process of designing and implementing elections from our delegates ourselves to choose our leaders. And we chose two statewide leaders. One of them is Karen Bernal, and I'm very glad to introduce her now.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Bernal. I hail from Sacramento, California. I am one of two co-representatives. We even went to the length of deciding to get more politically correct, as it were, and instead of the word chair, we chose the word representative, and instead of the word whips, we chose regional coordinators. So the other co-representative is Dr. Bill Honigman, who is from Orange County, and as I say, I'm from Sacramento. We also elected 3 regional coordinators, whips, as most people know them, from Northern, Central, and Southern California. And so on the Bernie side of things in California, there are about slightly over 200 Bernie delegates out of the roughly 475 pledged delegates in California. So I wanted to say that one of the things that I think that the party has failed to see is that number one, Bernie delegates came here with an entirely different agenda than what the Democratic Party would like to see us be a part of. On its face, we're here to choose the nominee of our party who will face off against the Republican Donald Trump in November, so they would like to see party unity. For the Bernie delegates, we came here to push a progressive agenda, to basically also talk about to talk about actually the power structure, its corruption, and the fact that we utterly reject the system that we're operating in now. And I think that everyone can see so far that, you know, that's the case. I mean, my understanding is that Chairwoman Wasserman Schultz was booed off the stage at the Florida breakfast delegation, and I understand that pretty much for many of the speakers, even at the California delegation breakfast, that they were met with boos. California, as some people would know, was one of a few states that went through a primary that was marked with a lot of, in the very least, snafus, some of it quite suspicious, and we haven't seen the end of that. Actually, as I speak to you guys now, not even all the ballots have been counted in California. So you can imagine, after going through that process for a month, we weren't even sure what our total numbers for delegates were going to be to this convention. And then you add to that the vice presidential pick, along with what just has occurred with the WikiLeaks emails, and it kind of all confirms or reaffirms in the minds of most Bernie delegates that we were given a raw deal, that we are dealing with a rigged system, that the primary was very much rigged from the very beginning to favor the Mrs. Clinton, and that what we're seeing right now, you're seeing that play out. I would also like to say that a lot of people who would ask, well, why can't we have party unity? This is, after all, we're here to pick a nominee. I would also tell many people that Senator Sanders wrote in, he owes his success to, in a great way, to many protest movements and the resistance movements outside the party. He rode in that wave and rode it as far as he could go. You know, we know about Black Lives Matter. We also know about Occupy. These are all movements that have been, that are resistance-based, and so it should not come as a surprise that a lot of the expressions that we see inside the convention are going to reflect the zeitgeist that is outside the convention as well. So that's not no different. As to the vice presidential pick, we had hoped that Mrs. Clinton would have at least thought to roll back perhaps some of the worst of the neoliberal policies, of which, to a great degree, Senator Sanders, you know, how can I say this? He that was his platform. He came in on that platform regarding the inequality over economic policies, socio-economic policies, and that we would have hoped that Mrs. Clinton would have sought to roll back a lot of those policies, but we see instead in many ways a promotion of those policies in her choice of Kaine. So that's all I want to say for right now, and hopefully there will be some questions later on. Thank you.
And now I want to introduce another speaker. You have the printed material about Manuel Zapata from Tracy, California, which is out towards the Central Valley. Manuel?
You guys need to smile more. Okay, so sorry, I'm a bit timid and shy, so let me speak up. I'm not the usual person to be up here and have your guys' eyes on me, as you can tell. I don't have a suit. I don't even own a suit, to be honest. I'm just a grassroots volunteer that's like really, really into democracy, so I'm here. I'm a Bernie Sanders delegate from California, the biggest delegation, and we're a little pissed off, and I want to let you guys know why. We can address the resignation of Tim Canova's opponent, and we could address how she's now a Hillary Clinton aide, staffer, whatever. But let me tell you how it feels like to be a Hillary Clinton party. Since the moment we got here, people have looked down on us as we walk past them with our Bernie campaign swag on, as if he's not still a candidate, as if it's wrong for us to back the person that we're supposed to back. They throw party unity around like that's something that will trigger us to jump for joy when they mention her name. Yet, everything in the past year has pulled away from party unity. From the DNC's leaked emails, it's pretty clear that what we were saying for months is obviously true. They had their finger on the scale for her campaign, and the validation does not make us happy. We're not happy about being right. This is heartbreaking for us. I personally am 29 years old. I've been a Democrat since the day I could be a Democrat. I wanted to be a Democrat since I was a kid. I used to keep my 8th grade teacher after school to talk about Gore and Bush. I know he didn't want to talk to me about that every day, but I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to be a Democrat. I campaigned, I volunteered for Bernie Sanders. We signed up so many new Democrats. We got so many people inspired to be Democrats. And now this is the party that we led them to. That is the most disappointing thing that I've ever done. And I want you guys to know the California delegation is not happy about this at all. We are progressives, and we are true progressives. And we find it a little disrespectful that it seems like a madman like Donald Trump is reaching out for the progressive vote more than Hillary Clinton is. That's very, very disrespectful. That's all I really want to say right now. And you guys should smile more.
Okay. A couple of quick points. If Hillary Clinton wants to move today towards more party unity, she certainly has it within her power to say it's a mistake to make an honorary chair out of Debbie Wasserman Schultz. We shouldn't be honoring somebody who ran such a, we now know, disreputable shop at the DNC. And so she should be empowered of that post before she even takes it on Friday. The other point I'd like to make very briefly, but very emphatically, is that the delegates to this convention, including certainly Bernie Sanders delegates, understand full well the necessity of defeating Donald Trump. We understand that it is essential to defeat Donald Trump and make sure he never gets anywhere near the White House. And one of the main reasons we are so upset by the selection of Tim Kaine is that we believe, contrary to the assertions of the punditocracy that probably has spoken to very few Bernie delegates even, this is not a move that will solidify support from progressives. It's not a move, we believe, that will strengthen our hand in defeating Trump. On the contrary, Tim Kaine will double down on making the ticket a target the size of a very big barn for the faux, false, demagogic, phony economic populist claims of Donald Trump. And so it's really important for us to recognize where the threat from within the Democratic Party is coming from that could enable or facilitate a Trump victory, which we all are so dedicated here to preventing. So with that, I'd like to ask for any questions. Because we're not miking the questions, I'm going to briefly summarize them, and then we'll get responses. Yes?
What sort of action are you expecting from your delegate network when Tim Kaine speaks and if Debbie Wasserman Schultz speaks on the floor of the convention?
We sent out a straw poll survey through a unique link process last night. We've had heavy participation already. I was just checking on my text messages. The figures coming in, hundreds have already participated, members of the Bernie Delegates Network. And the exact configurations of the protests are unclear. But it's evident that a substantial majority of the polled, surveyed delegates support participating, say they want to participate in protests on the floor. In part in connection with Hillary Clinton's appearance, even more so than in the scheduled acceptance speech of Tim Kaine, although there's a majority in that realm as well. There's also very, very, very strong, overwhelming support for a challenge to Tim Kaine's nomination. And at our briefing yesterday, I said, I don't know where people are at. We're going to survey, and now we know. As the cliche goes, stay tuned. Karen, did you want to respond to this? Or Karen?
Can you talk more about?
Excuse me, we're going to hear from Karen on this as well.
Going into this, a lot of people look to the California delegation because it is such a large delegation, figuring that whatever the delegates from California did, that they would, to a large degree, be able to influence what is going to happen on the floor. Will the other delegates join in? And what I can tell you is that indeed, there is, and I just want to be, in all fairness to all the delegates, we have everything from the Bernie or Busters to what I call the eventual nominee types, some of which are pleos or party leaders, elected officials who supported Bernie but will be the most party unity out of all of the delegates. Still, even within that wide range, there is a healthy section of the delegation that is for having some sort of expression of disapproval, ranging from something voiced, maybe something quietly visual, all the way to something that's a little bit more vigorous. And the other thing I'd like to say is that the communication between the delegates between California and other states has been ongoing. So it is not just limited to one state. There's many states that are part of this. So that's about it.
Norman, may I ask if it comes to an acceptance speech by Secretary Clinton on Thursday night, based on your straw poll, will you walk out, or will there be another reason for it? In other words, how will you determine that inflection point on the configuration of the protest?
The question is, how would I determine the inflection point of the configuration of the protest? I'm not going to determine it at all. We're doing surveys and then letting the delegates know, and the public know in the process, what the sentiments are. And so we're going to be fine-tuning, I'm sure, the delegates, because it's the will of the delegates that matters. I mean, after all, we've been elected from around the country, and mathematically, we're representing X number of voters in the different communities. And so we're really representing literally every corner of the United States and half a dozen territories as well. So it's yet to be determined.
And does that straw poll contain the words "walk out"? Do you ask?
No, we're using the word "protest" on the convention floor. The phrase such as that.
Do you
Yes.
expect booing protests today if Wasserman Schultz gapples in the convention?
My crystal ball's in the shop. I mean, one could extrapolate from the greeting she got from her, evidently her home state breakfast. I'm personally puzzled, this is my own viewpoint, I'm personally puzzled as to why Debbie Wasserman Schultz at this juncture, if the reports are accurate, is going to be placed in front of the entire convention. And what is the point of doing that and having her, if the reports are correct, give some sort of speech to the entire convention? I don't understand the logic of that, but, you know, as the saying goes, all will be revealed, perhaps.
Bernie,
How representative is your group of national Bernie Sanders delegates, and how many people participated in the straw poll?
Good.
And building on what you say are the results of that poll, is there any intention to challenge the nomination of Tim Kaine?
Okay, let me take the last one first. There's serious interest right now and exploration as we speak in a formal challenge with an alternative candidate to Tim Kaine. And I would call upon and urge the DNC, don't compound your well-earned reputation for being the opposite of even-handed. There are rules, they're published, 300 signatures required from delegates with no more than 50 from any one state to place a vice presidential candidate in nomination. And we would hope that in the next hours the DNC will be forthright in providing the requisite forms so we can get on with the process. In terms of the surveys, they basically involved 270, 280, 290 response, usually within a 24-hour period. And I think that they're pretty much sample survey. I mean, we've had delegates opting in, about 1,050 to 1,100 out of the 1,250 have actively opted in to participate in the process. And we've had extraordinary response rates. I'm at rootsaction.org. Often emails are opened 10, 15. You're doing well if you get 18, 20% open rates. We've been getting about 51, 53% open rate on a single email with just the intense response. So are we up to Gallup standards? Probably not. But I think we're within a few percent of being a very accurate read of where people are at.
Sent to all delegates?
No, not all delegates, all Bernie Sanders
All Bernie Sanders
network.
delegates in the country?
Let me clarify, all Bernie Delegates Network members, and that's 1,250 of them.
So it's about a fourth of the delegates?
No, that's about 2/3 of all the Bernie delegates. Keep in mind there are 1,900, a little shy of 1,900 Bernie Sanders delegates total at this convention. Our network is about 2/3 of that we're surveying, 1,250. Yes?
You said you're reflective, not directive.
Right.
But if you get a urgent, heartfelt plea from Senator Sanders that says, please don't do this, what do you think your delegate network will do?
Good question. We really will take everything under advisement from people, including from Bernie Sanders. And I should have stressed at the outset, we are a totally independent network. We always have been, we always will be. We are independent of the Bernie Sanders campaign. I myself and other people involved in organizing of this network have had zero communication in either direction with the Bernie campaign. And we've never been told by Bernie or any of his staff people, do protest, don't protest. If, you know, as you say, and it's hypothetical, it could or couldn't happen, if we're asked by Bernie directly or indirectly or one of his staffers, don't do this, then we'll take that under advisement as we would from any other source. But we take very seriously the principle that Bernie enunciated time and time again throughout the campaign, that social change that's worth a damn always comes from the bottom up, from the grassroots, not from the top. And as beloved as Bernie is, his brilliance includes the fact that he's not running the show. He's not running the social movements. It is activists, including the Bernie delegates at this convention, who will make the social change in this country. And we got to make decisions on that basis.
I'd like to answer that question from a delegate's point of view, and as someone who is chairing the largest state Bernie delegation. I actually have heard through the grapevine from members of his campaign about they're pressuring us to not be involved in protests, not to be so overt in our expressions. And what my message to them has been that I understand that their members of the staff are involved in managing on their end, the state of affairs on the floor, but as someone who is representing my state's delegation, that is not my job. My job is to make sure that the wishes of my delegates are heard, and that their opinions are heard. Moreover, I would say that we all understand that the one thing I would really, before I go into that, is that if it's the one thing that I can say about the Bernie delegates, they have never been a group to just take marching orders. They're extremely independently minded, and so they're going to do what they feel is in keeping with the so-called political revolution, and expressing that in a way that means bottom-up democracy. The fact that we had an election in California, I've been told by everyone in the party there that that's a first, that they've always taken direction from the top down, from the campaign. So even from the campaign, there has been an ongoing kind of back and forth where we say, well, we understand where you're coming from, but this is how the delegates feel. We feel that this is in keeping with the idea of advancing the political revolution. And by the way, we know that effectively the campaign really isn't a campaign anymore. We can use metaphors I've heard like snow on a warm day. It has started to melt into the landscape that is the DNC landscape and the Clinton landscape. And instinctively, the Bernie delegates understand this. And so because of that, they have decided to go forward and be very self-determined about their actions.
Karen, could you just give me a sense of your delegation? Do they believe Bernie's endorsement of Hillary was a mistake, number one? And number two, and also to Manuel, and number two, there are various polls on the percentage of Bernie delegates who are going to vote third party or not going to vote. What's your sense of that?
Repeat the question.
The first question is, do the Bernie delegates in California, I can only answer for that, feel that the senator's endorsement of Secretary Clinton was a mistake? And secondly, what, if anything, are they going to do in terms of the November? Well, of course, they feel that his endorsement was a mistake. But I think many people also realistically saw that what the handwriting on the wall, so to speak, in terms of the pledged delegate numbers and so on. I think where there is a shared disappointment, whether you are on the buster end of the spectrum or on the eventual nominee end of the spectrum, I think one of the things that we're very disappointed about is the timing. A lot of people, we have to pay our own way to the convention. We have to, this is something that has been literally blood, sweat, and tears for the delegates. And we feel that anything that diminished the power that came with an actual contested convention, the moment where we could vote, the roll call, where we could have the first balloting, and then we could have that back and forth to actually try to win over delegates from the other side, was effectively, we were neutered in that, and when it came to that. I'm pretty sure I'm fair in saying that. The other thing as to what's going to happen in November, well, I think that a lot of people, yes, there will be a lot of people that go third party. I'm not saying that that's what I would like or that that's what should happen, but let's face it, a lot of the delegates, a lot of the activists who joined this campaign and became delegates themselves, some of them were not Democrats. Some of them were unaffiliated, some were perhaps minor parties, left parties. They became Democrats to work for Bernie, to go into the inside. Given all that's happened, and especially with the revelation of the WikiLeaks emails, it's true that a number of them will probably go back to being unaffiliated and go back to being with other parties. That being said, no one wants Donald Trump in the White House. Depending on what state you're from, I'm guessing, especially with the swing states, we will probably see more people, do what it takes to deny the presidency to Mr. Trump. And on the other hand, the states that we know that will always go blue, I think you're going to see a big push to be free with that vote, including going with the Green Party and other parties, because they know that their state will be safely blue. So I think you're going to see all kinds of things. I think one thing that we can all agree, though, is that we don't want to see a Mr. Trump in the White House.
Isn't going third party, especially even in blue states, going to be playing to Trump's narrative? I mean, look, he beat so many Republican candidates in the primary. So if you assume that states that are blue now are always going to be blue, even in this election, that could be a fatal mistake that puts Trump in the White House.
Could I briefly talk about the whole concept? I'm not speaking as an individual delegate. The whole concept of safe states. I live in California, it's going to go blue. If you live in Texas, it's going to go red. If you go to New York, it's blue. So this is a red herring or a blue herring, depending how you look at it. The reality is that it's the swing states where that is an issue. And it doesn't matter if progressives vote for Hillary Clinton or not in the safe states, one way or the other. So that's why personally, and so many other progressive delegates and others for Bernie say, in swing states, hold your nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. In safe states, it doesn't matter.
And can I say something else about that? I think a lot of the rank and file delegates, as I said before, there is a percentage of them that is definitely going to reflect the zeitgeist of what we see outside the convention. And as such, they would I'm sure that they would say this, is that, look, you guys, quit blaming us for essentially a situation that was handed to us, and by the way, was self-inflicted. Yes.
Manuel, please. Excuse me, first we're going to hear from Manuel.
Yeah, I just want to say something real quick. What was your first question originally?
First question was it a
that.
mistake?
Yeah, okay, so I personally disagree. I don't think it was a mistake. I think the timing was a mistake because we needed to fundraise to be here. I know he has to play good Democrat, and I know that we probably wouldn't even be able to get to watch him speak at the Democratic convention if he did not endorse her. So I want to see him speak so he could play good Democrat. I don't blame him for that. But I'm my own person, so I will vote for who I want to vote for. As far as Trump goes, and us not wanting to see him in office, I think all of us here are clear that when you want to win elections, you put the best candidate up, and you don't leave it to a coin flip. And I think that says a lot about this election. So whoever's fault it is whoever brought out that coin for us to flip. The polls are very, very close. And Hillary Clinton tied with a Donald J. Trump is a very, very scary thing. I think we could all agree on that. Unless there's some right-wing press here, then I think they'll be okay with that. But it's as far as third parties go, I'm going to be a Democrat. Like I said, I wanted to be a Democrat forever, and even if the party's broken, I think we could fix it. I think there's something cool about living in a haunted house, and I'll stay here until we can fix this. So I'm going to be a Democrat. If people wanted to jump ship and vote for whoever, they can vote for whoever. As far as I vote for, you'll never know.
Hi, this is a question for the whole group, but Norman, you specifically talked about placing another name in consideration for the VP pick, and you mentioned that you're waiting for requisite forms from the convention or the party. Could you explain a little bit more of the logistics there? Is there some issue? Are you still gathering signatures? When can you expect to do that?
I can tell you, the question is about the logistics of gathering of forms and requisite material for filing for a VP challenge candidate. I will be able to tell you a lot more in 23 and something hours from now in this same room with the Daily Brief, because we'll know a heck of a lot more. I want to very quickly say that I want to make clear, if I ever hear, as coordinator of the Bernie Delegates Network, or any of our entity of the Bernie Delegates Network, receives any communication from the Bernie Sanders official campaign on any basis trying to urge us to protest or not protest It will not be a secret communication. I will announce it here. There's going to be no backroom deals whatsoever. But to this point, as the Bernie Delegates Network, we've not heard anything from the campaign, so I want to clarify. And while we're on metaphors, melting snow on the grass or cement is one. I want to use the compost metaphor. Any gardener knows that sooner or later you're going to get compost. The Bernie Sanders campaign has been a fantastic boost for progressive social movements. Those movements have boosted the campaign. Bernie Sanders' campaign has boosted those movements. Those powerful forces will endure and grow. It's now compost. This campaign is disappearing. It's just about to become history, but it's leaving compost that we're going to grow a lot out of.
Norman?
Yes?
I stepped out for a second, excuse me if you address this. What are the names that you consider putting into challenge? And a larger question, at the end of this week, if you have protests and demonstrations and express the disapproval of Bernie delegates, and that's all it is at the end of the 4 days, and you still have Tim Kaine as vice president, you still have Hillary Clinton as nominee, do you believe that the Democratic mission to elect Hillary Clinton instead of Donald Trump is helped by that?
Well, I think that mission would be helped if Debbie Wasserman Schultz was given her pink slip before she formally reports for work on Friday in her honorary position. Well, you're asking, I think, as well, you're asking what can be done or what the prospects are, and I think the ball is largely in Hillary Clinton's court, is my point. Social change, we respect nonviolent protest. It's a historic role. Fannie Lou Hamer came to Atlantic City in 1964, and the Democrat in the White House sent off his lieutenants named Joe Rao and Hubert Humphrey and said, will you shut that woman up, keep her off national television? She's damaging our possibilities to defeat Barry Goldwater. And Barry Goldwater, I'm old enough to remember, he was just as scary as Donald Trump. So there were all sorts of rationales to put the kibosh on her. And as she said, we didn't come all this way for no 2 seats. Well, we didn't come all this way for simply deferring to the White House or Hillary Clinton. Did you want
What does
Yeah,
it solve at the end of the day?
Excuse me, we're trying to have a process
I'd
here.
like to answer you on that question, Mr. Corn. So I think that they have to allow it. Does it help? It's in their best interest. It absolutely helps because all of this is being consumed by the public. If the vast majority of the Democratic base sees this, base, by the way, which is clearly more progressive than the leadership is, it signals that there are people like themselves in the party who feel the way that they do, and that it tells them that there's a place for them in the party. If that is just simply quashed, it pretty much signals to anyone who would like to believe that there can be a reforming of the party, inside work that can push a party further to the left from inside work, that is going to be a very bad signal to those that would like to imagine that there's a place for them in the party.
But this is what I don't understand. If you end up booing or walking out on Hillary Clinton, other people outside the party may say, yeah, that's what I'd like to do too. But in terms of encouraging those people then to support her ultimately, I don't understand how that gets you there. It just gets them to say, yeah, people are angry. There are people in the streets today who I think are Bernie supporters chanting, lock her up, imitating what was said at the Republican convention. Now, how does that help your mission if you accept the mission of electing a Democrat over Donald Trump? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
We know that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We know that a lot of the people that are doing the work inside the party, there is a line. It is not, we're not people outside the party, we're people inside the party. We may be unhappy with, some of the delegates may be very unhappy with Secretary Clinton, but that's not to say that we don't recognize the fact that we have plenty of work to do inside the party, and that part of that involves that we don't want to see Donald Trump taking the White House. I think we need to be able to show that there is a space for this kind of discontent within the party, and understanding that we can still move forward and try to do everything that we can to make this a more progressive party.
And well, did you want to?
And what about the idea of who you might put forward instead of Tim Kaine?
Well, first I'd like to say that when you said if you do, but it's not me or Karen or Manuel. It's going to be the decision of the delegates. We're mirroring, giving information. So again, with due respect, we don't want to. Delegates can't rely on the mass media to tell them what each other thinks. We're simply communicating to delegates who are for Bernie Sanders what we think. That's what the straw polling is about. In terms of the names, and I think I neglected to respond to that part of your question, we've approached a number of people, and those who want to eat lunch at the White House next year, they run the other way when it comes to being put forward as a possible vice presidential slot challenger. You know this, I mean, David. You know DC.
That's why I'm asking if you have anybody.
We're working on it. Manuel, did you want to?
What do you think from your delegation about how you'll deal with Schultz tonight on stage? Are folks talking about protesting, making noise?
Well, yes, and my attitude about it as the state co-chair, co-representative, excuse me, honestly, unless I think it's something harmful or destructive, I don't consider booing and chanting and being noisy and rude to be harmful. It is just a part of democracy. It actually is about life. I mean, we don't want this to be just a hollow show.
So do you expect that there will be booing?
I would be very surprised if you could have a conversation in normal tones.
I think personally we're going to treat her the same with the amount of respect that her state treated her with. As far as what our protest will do in the end, I just want to make it clear that it's all right as humans to give pushback to things that we don't agree with. I know you guys want like a definite answer on that, but sometimes you got to stand up for things you don't believe in, even if you don't win. So if you guys really want to silence that, that's cool, but we're going to do what we're going to do as delegates, because we're representing people that did not vote for her. And if she wants the party unity, everybody clap your hands and jump and sing, that's not going to come easy with us. That's really all it's about.
To what extent, if any, has the revelations from the WikiLeaks emails changed or emboldened or altered what your plans are for this week?
Personally, I honestly, like I said earlier, it's just they're disappointing. We don't want to be right about what we thought was true. Nobody wants to be right about the party that they're working so hard for, working against them secretly. I think it made people really mad. If you want an honest answer, it made them really mad, because some people came here like, you know what, maybe we should just accept it, just sit in silence, But what are we supposed to do at that point? What would you guys do at that point? We are representing Americans that went out and voted because they thought that it was going to be fair, that the DNC was going to be fair to both sides, and obviously that isn't the case. So are we not allowed to be upset about that, you guys? Wouldn't you? Let's be honest here.
If Wasserman Schultz does not speak today, if she steps down immediately, how much would that placate the delegation?
I mean, honestly, like, if Tim Canova's opponent steps down today, that's all it's going to be. Sometimes just doing the right thing doesn't always get you a pat on the back. It's not going to make us super happy because, it took them 2 email leaks, right, for them to even acknowledge anything was wrong. So, I mean, this could have been done before.
In terms of going back to the walkout, I think, I've worked with the party and I'm really a wonk in that regard. I think that we are siphoning or giving up a certain amount of leverage on a rules committee basis if we want to change the VP, if we want to be able to put it to more than a first ballot, I think we have to really be looking at.
Excuse me, is this a question? Are you with the
yeah.
Oh,
if-
please.
If you'd let me, thank you.
Please.
So I think what we need to do is, really examine the idea of a walkout, and I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I have no idea if people are planning to walk out. That's really the case. There's a lot of people floating around ideas, but I'm not going to speak for as if there's a walkout or there's not a walkout, because to my knowledge, I mean, we're staying there,
Sure, but at the same time, I think I'd like to see what your idea is regarding rules and having every delegate present inside of that room.
It should be there, a statement on your part. Yes, did you have a question?
Please identify your news outlet and who you are before you ask the question.
Okay, I'm Bridget Bowman with Roll Call. Has anyone with the DNC or the Clinton campaign reached out to you? And what would it take for what would the DNC, I guess, have to do for you all not to protest during Secretary Clinton's speech?
By reach out to you, who's the you you're referring to?
Specifically, or any other registered.
we had a meeting last night, and there's supposed to be someone that goes between the campaigns and speaks. To my knowledge, there was no conversations between. Right? Is that what was said yesterday?
Yeah. There's so many layers of this. Each state delegation has their whole whipping system. So every state has a whipping system, and then on top of that, as we had said before here, we actually self-selected our own leadership amongst the Bernie delegation. Well, on the other side, the Clinton people have what they call their liaisons or secretaries, and they have requested points of contact on the Bernie side, as they say, to take care of any issues that may arise on the floor as they happen. So you can be sure that there's already a great deal of, reaching out very quietly to ask, probably, could you please not do this, or we're concerned that this may occur, or we've heard this, and that sort of thing. Basically, we're in touch. We want to be able to keep the channels of communication open, because there's actually, believe it or not, there is unity, but it's over some of the issues, such as both sides pretty much to a great degree agree that we're all against the TPP. That's one. Citizens United, clean money, and so on. So that's been kind of the tone of our conversations going back to the Clinton delegation, and I'd say that coming back the other way, they were very concerned about the appearances of unity.
We have time only for a couple more questions, and some of the questions have been asked that we have less than airtight, clear answers. I think in 23 hours in this room we'll have some of those answers.
On Sanders' speech tonight, Daniel Strauss from Politico. On Sanders' speech tonight, if he goes for a message on unity or something, what is your response? What is the response from delegates on that? We have that he's not going to be mentioning Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and he's already endorsed Clinton. Ostensibly, the speech is going to be supportive of the presumptive Democratic nominee for president. Is that selling out? How does that work with everything you're talking about?
The question is basically, I can sum it up for people towards the back. When Bernie Sanders speaks tonight or today, afternoon, evening, it calls for unity, what the response might be, and is Bernie Sanders selling out, I think is part of your question. Or no, I personally am speaking for myself, and I think the prevalence of most delegates, certainly that I've talked with Bernie delegates is not, put it this way, Bernie Sanders has not sold out. He has helped to lead a tremendous campaign. We hold him in extremely high regard, and we take him at his word, not because he's a senator or a candidate, but because of his wisdom that progressive social change ultimately comes from the bottom. And even though progressive movements have functioned very much in tandem with him as a candidate, our roles are not identical. And even the best candidate cannot have the latitude to be the engine for social change that historically movements have been able to generate. I think we have time for one more. If anyone wants to also answer, but yes.
Extending on that, you're basically saying no matter what Bernie says, what he says doesn't necessarily matter to you. As long as the party's unity, you guys are going to continue to antagonize and try and cause disruptions.
Well, that would be, I don't even know if I can paraphrase that properly. You seem to be asking or questioning whether we would just do whatever we want to do and ignore Bernie. Is that the gist of your question?
I mean, it sounds like what you guys think Bernie has a different role to play. He's going to say different things on the stage. Your interest is in party leader.
Well, I can't speak for anybody but myself and tell you the data results. Ultimately, we have our own roles as activists, as delegates, and so forth. And as I said, we hold Bernie in extremely high regard, and we also realize that we're at a historic moment where there are a lot of forces at play, and deferring to anybody who is a senator candidate is just not going to make it in terms of the health of this party. Because Karen's point, and I would sort of close on this note, Karen's point I think is absolutely crucial. There are millions of voters out there who cast their ballots for Bernie Sanders in the primaries and caucuses. And we can convey that it's possible to be upset with Hillary Clinton. It's possible to be angry at the emails, angry at the choice of Tim Kaine, and still move forward and recognize that it's essential to defeat Donald Trump. And that's an important role model, if you will, that we're going to be playing out this week.
I want to remind people that we will be in this room tomorrow morning with more information at 10:30, and that the Bernie Delegates Network was initiated by rootsaction.org, the online activism group, in partnership with Progressive Democrats of America.